This is the Daily Night for Monday, May 9, 2016. The Daily Night supports Making Biscuits Cat Rescue, a 501c3 charity. If you like this podcast, please consider making a donation or adopting a rescue cat at makingbiscuits.org. I'm your host, Gerardo San Diego, and this is a review of Captain America Civil War. Spoiler. So, spoiler. I'm going to talk about everything. Nothing holding back. So I'm still kind of in a daze right now because I just saw it for the second time. I saw it last Friday, the morning show. I told you if you want to know about my experience last Friday in the morning show, listen to the previous podcast, Daily Night number 37. This is Daily Night number 38, and this time, the first time I saw it, I barely woke up. I think I drank 3 sips of water and got dressed and rushed myself to the theater. I think I watched the 10 a.m. show, and I was out of there by like 12:30 or 1. And as I said in the previous podcast, I wonder what my experience will be if I saw the movie a little bit later in the day, which I did. Not that much later. I still saw the matinee show. I saw the the noon show. But I had already had breakfast. I had already done chores around the house. I got stuff done. And then I was clear-headed. I didn't have coffee in the morning. Thank goodness. I got enough sleep, so I didn't need to have coffee to wake me up. So I went to the theater. Hardly anybody there. Saved some money. And I this second time around, I actually liked the movie more for different reasons. This movie is brilliant. I don't know how many words I can say. And the more I think about it, the more brilliant it gets. Now, hopefully I can explain it properly. In my personal criteria, I have to enjoy a movie. If a movie is like mathematics, although I love mathematics, or if it's like jazz or abstract art or whatever, although I love all those other things, if a movie is so mathematically inclined or too abstract or too out there, or it's logical but it isn't fun. I think the optimum word is fun. If a movie isn't fun to me, I usually give it a lower rating. So my most important criteria for any movie is, and I don't mean fun where things are blowing up and everything's hysterical or a whole bunch of color and your senses are shattered. I'm talking about fun where it's entertaining, but also makes you feel good as a human being. As opposed to just depressing the hell out of you. So that's my criteria. Okay. It also helps if the movie doesn't take itself seriously. It's almost like talking about what kind of person would you like to just hang around with. You want a well-balanced person that is intelligent, has a sense of humor, that can be understood by other people, can get along in the normal world, but also has eccentricities that they are aware of, that they can control, hopefully, and has and can sit down with you for an hour over coffee or over lunch or dinner, and give you a story or enthrall you. I think maybe that's a good word, enthrall. Keep you in a state of amazement Not even if it's just for a little bit, even if it's just for 15, 30 minutes with what they have to say, because they have this wealth of character that they've built up over the years that they can offer to you. So I just described a person that I would want to enjoy having lunch with. And also, the person it doesn't try to insult me all the time, or doesn't talk down to me or up to me. The person doesn't try to hurt me. That's very important. So in a movie is to me it's the same thing. All these elements in a movie, and I got it with Captain America: Civil War. It has more action than 99% of all superhero movies ever made. It has more dialogue that is worthwhile, important, has gravitas, has depth, has intelligence, has comedy than 99% of any superhero movie that I've ever watched. It has a great story, better than 99% of any movie that I've ever watched, any superhero movie that I've ever watched. And it is a great movie unto itself. Up there with probably my top 30 movies of all time. I have a feeling over time it's going to be like one of my top 20 movies ever, not just superhero movies, but top 20 movies, because Captain America: Civil War has so many elements of non-superhero movies that I love, and they do it right. Give credit, people are giving credit to the Russo brothers, but at the same time, I think every single person that worked on this movie just it looks like a labor of love and confidence. So I don't know what else to how else to kind of puff up this movie, but I guess the best thing for me to do is go into different aspects of the movie, not just me going, oh my God, this is the best movie in the world, blah blah blah, but I'll talk about the different parts of it. First, I'm going to talk about the locations. If you didn't think, in real estate they say, location, location, location. It feels like it's the same in the movie, and I think that's why this movie reminded me so much of the Jason Bourne movies, because the Jason Bourne movies, I don't know if you know this already. From what I've heard, is Jason Bourne is supposed to be the American equivalent of James Bond, JB, James Bond, Jason Bourne. And of course, James Bond travels to all these locations around the world, and the location is as much a character as the people in the stories. So the locations in this movie, I think, would have, if they had not gone to, where did they go? Is it where's the Sokovia Accords? Where it was in Vienna. Or no, it was in Germany somewhere. Munich? No, I think it's Vienna. Yeah, Vienna, Austria. And they would go to, where else did they go? They went to Wakanda, which is I assume in the African continent somewhere. They were in America. They were up in Siberia, and all of these shifts of location, very much like The Force Awakens, where it changes from green to water to desert to ice, set up the tone for what was to happen in that location. So, and brilliant, and you can tell they knew what they were doing, because whenever they switched locations, they weren't shy about it. They were not shy about it. right when they switch a location, you see right across in huge letters where they were. Uh, what was it? Vienna, I think, was one. Or oh no no oh geez, no, not Marrakesh. But you know what I'm talking about. But if you look it up, you'll see that somebody has it written somewhere where all these locations and the font was beautiful. The typeface. I know I'm being a design nerd here, but the typeface for uh, the location, how they tell you where they are, is beautiful. And oh my God, you need to see this in 3D. Do not see this in 3D because of the it actually enhances the movie if you see it in 3D. Not just the title cards, but whenever they focus on a person, whoever is speaking, whoever the focal point is, they nailed it with the 3D-ness of it. If the emphasis is going to be on Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, she is not necessarily in center frame. She might be off to the side, but her 3D-ness, her depth is sharper than all the other characters. Just watch out for that stuff. And the nice thing is, it actually helps you focus more on what they're talking about when, excuse me, it isn't only the camera focus, lens focus that they're doing, but the crispness of the 3D. So and I think that's part of the location. The atmosphere of this movie is amazing. And you can tell, what movie did I see? The Godfather. One of the reasons I love The Godfather so much, probably one of my top 5 movies of all time. Actually, to me, I lump it up into Godfather 1 and 2 because recently I saw the HBO the Godfather Epic version where they edited it so it's chronological order. The Godfather 1 and 2, so they kind of shuffled scenes around so it's a chronological order, but the details in The Godfather and how the camera, the cinematographer is absolutely aware of every element in the frame of the shot. And it feels like that in everything in Civil War. Actually, it's weird. I'm kind of talking about cinematography now, but and the framing of the scene, how they portray Spider-Man. They film Spider-Man with different angles and different depth and different I don't know, focal lengths, lighting. So that's just one aspect of it, and that's cinematography. That's not superhero. That's just making a damn good film. Okay, so they paid attention to that. The timing of the movie, when people speak, what they say, the economy of language in a language-rich movie. So if you can have a 2.5-hour movie, Civil War, Captain America: Civil War is a 2.5-hour movie, and you can, and if let's say the original script was 4 hours long, and then they realize, you know what, there are certain scenes where we can say exactly what we need to in 3 lines instead of 7, or even 2 lines instead of 5. Let's distill it down and give us the best language. Somebody said, a good poem is the best words in the best order. So it almost feels like, the importance that this movie puts on language, on words, amazes me. I'm trying to think about, were there any words that were wasted? Not even trivial stuff like when people make a sound that's not even a word, that like that, right? If you look at other less quality movies, there's a whole lot of that stuff going on. It's almost like people were ad-libbing and the editor didn't care enough to edit out all those extraneous sounds and words. So Captain America Civil War is 2.5 hours of a movie that has 4 hours of dialogue distilled down to 2.5 hours of the most important dialogue. And that's why you are able to have so many things going on in this movie. Oh my God. Just how many scenes, how many things happen in this movie. That's why I said in the previous podcast, they could have split this movie into two parts easily. Two parts, and each of those parts would have still been an amazing movie by itself. Half of this movie is better than, I don't even want to compare. No, it's not fair to compare this movie with other movies. I'm not going to do Batman versus Superman comparison. At least not in this podcast. Maybe later on again. Okay, so, how long have I been talking right now? I hope. Okay, so 16 minutes talking about two things. I hope you're not bored to death right now. But the first time I saw the movie, I watched a superhero movie. And then I knew there was something more to this, but there was so much happening the first time that I couldn't really focus on it. I couldn't scrutinize the movie like I did the second time. And also the first time I saw it in a packed theater, and a whole bunch of people were, they were talking and they were cheering. They were, you could hear, I could still hear the movie, but I was kind of distracted whenever somebody walks across, in front of me, or a little kid shouts on the other side of the theater, or a person 2 seats away from me starts shuffling in their seats, or whatever. But the second time, I was able to. It wasn't a packed theater. I was able to really focus and disseminate and scrutinize and understand why this movie is so appealing to me. Again, it's personal. Everything's subjective with art. Movies art. But the things that I love about the movies that are my favorite, I found in Captain America Civil War. I always want to root. I always want to empathize with a hero. I don't want an apathetic hero. I don't want, with any movie, not just superhero movies. If I can't identify, not even identify, if I cannot stand behind the motives of the protagonist, it's hard for me to invest myself in the movie. And so, but Captain America Civil War has how many protagonists? You have Tony Stark, Steve Rogers. I'm going to switch over to my IMDb page. Tony Stark, Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, Bucky Barnes, Sam Wilson, Rhodey, Clint Barton, T'Challa, The Vision, Wanda Maximoff, Scott Lang, Sharon Carter, Peter Parker, and Zemo. And even there's Crossbones, Brock Rumlow in there. Now, I'm going to count. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. There's 15 names that I just rolled off right now. 15 freaking names. You take 5 of those people, you put them in a movie, and you have this amazing superhero movie. You got 3 times that. And I didn't even get into the General Ross and all the supporting characters. What's his name? Let me click on here. Freeman. Martin Freeman? Martin Freeman. Oh, my God. Marissa Tomei. John Slattery and Hope Davis, the Stark parents. Alfre Woodard. Oh, my goodness. This is... Many people have said this movie is an embarrassment of riches. And I only now do I realize the depth of this movie. There's basically 20 people in here who are top actors. It's a superhero movie with an ensemble cast. And usually when you have a lot of talky, you don't have a lot of action. So what I'm going to do is, actually, you know what? I wrote down a couple of notes. If some of the things that kind of confused me a little bit the first time I watched it, they were much more clear the second time I watched it. For example, huge example is Tony Stark. It was like, why is he so torn? Why did he sign the Accords so quickly? And then I finally caught a little language with Pepper Potts. I kind of missed it the first time, where when he's in the MA, and now here's spoiler. Remember, this is a spoiler review. Near the beginning of the movie, he's at MIT, talking about his technology and almost in a regretful tone, which is the way they incorporated that scene of trying to change your past in order to make you feel better, maybe it's some kind of therapy almost, but using technology as part of the therapy. That scene, I think in any other movie that would have come out as awkward, or it would have come out as forced. But in this movie, it just flowed. It's organic, and I think it's because there were other things going on, and it was not the end game. It was not like look at me, I have this technology of virtual reality, and I can change my past, and or woe is me, Tony Stark. I have all the money in the world, but I'm messed up in the head, or I wish my parents didn't die, sort of thing, right? So, where was I going to go? The MIT. I lost track of what I was going to say. He was at MIT. He was going to give away He was going to give away all the money. Oh yeah, okay. Back to Pepper Potts. Okay, he was at MIT. He was going to give away all the money to. He's not going to give away all the money. He's going to fund every MIT graduate student with their project. Basically, pay for all the kids doing what they need to do to make the world a better place. All right. So, and then that quick thing where. The teleprompter talked about Pepper Potts being at the event. He was going to introduce Pepper Potts, and of course it's like, whoa, there's no Pepper Potts, so he stopped reading the teleprompter. His subplot that he just barely talks about regarding Pepper Potts totally flew over my head the first time I saw the movie, and I realized, okay. In so many words, and he literally in less than 1 minute of dialogue, when he was talking to Steve Rogers when Tony Stark was trying to have Steve Rogers sign the Sokovia Accords, and he brought those 2 antique pens with him, and Steve is asking, "Where's Pepper?" And basically, Tony Stark said, "Remember what happened in Iron Man 3, where Pepper literally turned into a superhero and almost died from the what do you call it? Extremis project. Hopefully, you've seen Iron Man 3, and Pepper Potts pretty much that. If that happened to anybody, that would be traumatic enough to where it's like, okay, I'm out of here. I got to take a vacation. So Pepper Potts was already kind of had enough of this stuff. All right. And then Tony Stark said, remember at the end of Iron Man 3, he was through with his superhero stuff. He got the arc reactor taken out of his chest. Now he's just a normal human being, and he's going to do his normal stuff, and he's going to let the other superheroes do their superhero thing. And he didn't do that. So I think Pepper Potts just had enough, and she said, let's separate for a while. And so Tony Stark was going into that. So, and remember, Tony Stark was sort of he has an addictive behavior, and he was a recovering, I don't know if you'd call it an alcoholic, but the thing that he had to take so that his heart wouldn't explode. Remember Iron Man 3. So he's still recovering from that. He's still recovering from what happened in the Avengers movie. New York basically, turning into rubble. He's still recovering from Age of Ultron, where he tries to save the world and he almost destroys it by creating Ultron. Now remember that. So, and during this whole time, Tony Stark is a human being. He's a human being, and all these things had happened to him. in all these previous movies before Captain America Civil War, and he's bringing all that baggage into this thing, and then the Sokovia Accords comes up and says that, you know what, let us take the Sokovia Accords. Basically said that the United Nations will review conflicts around the world and will assign the Avengers to deal with those specific conflicts, but all of them have to be approved by the United Nations before the Avengers can act, or at least they have to give Avengers permission to decide on their own, so basically the Avengers don't have to make as many choices because the UN is making the choices for them. So if you're Tony Stark, you're bringing all this baggage with you. You're bringing all this grief and all this trying to figure out what's good for who person, what to invent for Captain America. Basically, in what was it, in Age of Ultron? He said it in the Quinjet. He said, "I'm the guy that funds all this stuff, that invents all the cool costumes, that invents all the technology, and comes up with the coolest weapons for you guys. And he also organizes this whole damn thing, and clothes and houses and feeds them, the Avengers, right?" So he has all this burden on him, and all of a sudden the Sokovia Accord comes in and says, "You know what? Let us handle some of this stuff." If you're Tony Stark, you're gonna go, "Yeah, please, take some of the burden off of my shoulders, and let me just be kind of, hang out a little bit. Just give me some time to just not do anything for a while, please." But at the same time, once you give a control of anything, part of having time or space in a life is having to give up control of certain things. Like, we already know that. And Steve Rogers doesn't like that. He thinks that it's too much control that you're giving up. So that's just one little piece of the movie, literally, right? So also, if you're wondering, if you've read the 2006 comic book, Civil War by Mark Miller, the original, it was called the Superhero Registration Act in the comic books. And in the comic books, the Superhero Registration Act happened because wannabe superheroes did stupid things without supervision from those who are more experienced, and they wound up killing like 300 kids, busload of kids in a school full of kids. And the government steps in and said, every superhero has to register with the government, the United States government, or else they will be deemed as criminals. So it's like getting a driver's license. If you're a superhero, you have superpower, or you want to go help people, you got to go register with the government. So that's the comic book. The movie Civil War, Captain America Civil War, the movie focuses more on the Avengers only. The Avengers. Now keep in mind, this universe doesn't recognize the X-Men yet, or Deadpool, or the Fantastic Four. Right? They don't bring it up. They don't talk about it. They mention Doctor Strange, so he's part of the MCU. I think they mentioned Daredevil. So it's more just the Avengers registering themselves. Not even registering. They become peacekeepers under the rule or guide of the United Nations. And I think that was very smart of the writing team to make it smaller compared to the comic books, because the comic books had hundreds of super beings involved in the story. In this one, a dozen, maybe 15 superheroes. So all right, so what else was kind of foggy? Oh, Bucky Barnes. The second time I watched it, yes, he was framed in terms of killing, exploding the bomb at the Sokovia Accords, and killing T'Challa's father, T'Chaka, who is Black Panther. So Bucky Barnes did not kill uh, Black Panther's father. Because there's a quick scene in there, you would almost miss it if you were like, looking at your watch or whatever, where they found remains of prosthetic and makeup kits, and they were in the disguise of James Bucky Barnes Buchanan. James Buchanan? No, Bucky Barnes. So, the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes did not explode the bomb that killed Black Panther's dad. So, but he still did kill Tony Stark's parents. So that was the big, huge payoff at the end. It's like, oh my god! And the first time I saw it, because there were so many things happening in the movie. There's the Sokovia Accords. There's the big, all the fights. And who is this Zemo guy, and what is he doing? He's the electromagnetic pulse FedEx delivery. That was kind of confusing to me, and him interrogating the Winter Soldier. So the second time, you got to see the second time, especially if you didn't get it the first time. And I would be surprised if anybody understood 100% of this movie after seeing it only the first time. It reminds me very much of political thrillers, just like All the President's Men. I literally had to see it 5 times to understand everything that happened in All the President's Men, the Watergate scandal. Same thing with the movie Spotlight, about the investigation, the newspaper investigation into the Catholic school child molestation. Both true stories. Or the Insider with Russell Crowe and Al Pacino, also based on a true story. So Captain America Civil War is basically a detective story, political thriller that also sets up the Marvel universe for what's going to happen next. So, and I think it did it brilliantly. And if you notice, the pacing of this movie is not a typical superhero movie. Usually a typical superhero movie, the big battle happens as the very final battle. Not in this one. In a typical superhero movie, the ending, there's a complete resolution in the ending. And at the end of the Civil War, things are just as messed up as they were at the beginning, but a couple of things were made clear, and I think it's more the character development. I love all these things that I missed the first time I saw it. The letter that Steve Rogers sent to Tony Stark explains everything, tries to, and they still respect each other. They still have regard for each other. Who knows? We'll see in the next movie how close friends they still are. And how even the ending where Bucky Barnes volunteered to be frozen because he doesn't trust himself. It's almost like the Hulk. He doesn't trust himself to be out loose in the world just in case somebody reprograms him. What else? The elegance of this movie. So you have all these, the characters bring these nuances, and no, it's nuance is too subtle a word. The different characters bring flavors to this movie, where you got T'Challa. See, I've talked all this time. I didn't even talk about Black Panther, and he freaking blew me away, man. Oh my god! Did you notice that Black Panther, when he lands, he barely makes a sound, literally like a cat. And it's a specific thud that he makes when he lands. Doesn't sound like any of the other superheroes. and he has an elegance, the way he stands, the way he crouches, the way he moves, the way he pounces. It doesn't feel like he is an animal, but he has the elements of what, let's say, if a human got powers from a large animal. That's how a human would move, especially if the human were a prince who just became a king of what it seems like a very, very rich nation. And I love the fact that T'Challa, who's Black Panther, is now the Tony Stark. He's got the same, probably more, access to whatever he wants more than Tony Stark. So, and my friends were, we were talking about this. He is the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Batman now, and then they're gonna have a standalone Black Panther movie. Amazing. So that's Black Panther. That's T'Challa. The way people are talking about his accent is perfect. His father reminds me of Nelson Mandela. And I'm almost sure that was by design. The way they talk, the way their interaction with each other, their dialogue. My God, the son and father only talk to each other literally a minute in the movie, and in just that 1 minute, you can tell the relationship that they have with each other, the respect, the evolution of T'Challa from how his father thought he was to now, where he's more dignified, he's more an ambassador, a dignitary. He has more tact. He knows he has more responsibility, and then his dad dies, gets killed, murdered, and now he has to rein in all that youthful impulsive tendencies, and balance that with being a king who's like all the coolest gadgets. And you can tell he uses the gadgets, we'll see in the Black Panther movie, but he has a purpose. He has a bigger worldview purpose for the riches that he uses, for all the resources that he has. Speaking of balance, I don't know how, and I'm not kidding when I say this, I really don't know how anybody will ever make a superhero movie that is more balanced than this movie. Because I was asking myself internally the question while I was watching the movie, was there did it feel too much of a superhero movie? It's like, no. It felt like a Jason Bourne movie where the superhero came out only when needed. And if any movie is gonna, I don't know any, and no other movie should be able to do more than this movie in terms of superhero, or else they're gonna overdo it. Okay, the comedy. I think Captain America: Civil War hit that perfect percentage amount of comedy that you should put in a story that this serious. On the other side of it, seriousness. I think if it was more serious than this, it would be kind of too dark, and it wouldn't be fun anymore. And dialogue, I already talked about it. I think they added. What they did was they distilled the dialogue, and they distilled it and they distilled it and honed it and honed it. It's like writing a 3-page poem and editing it down so it's a 1-page poem, so that you literally just the best words in the best order and nothing wasted, and there's an importance to every element of this movie, every second, and even the timing of it, when they inserted a lighthearted moment, it was in the perfect time. It was like, oh, everything's dreadful, and then Captain America comes up in a VW bug and meets up with Sharon Carter, and then they kiss. They finally, that kiss that we've been waiting for how many, God knows how many movies. Actually, no, just one movie, The Winter Soldier. And then they quickly cut to Sam Wilson and Bucky in the VW, and they nod their head with smiles on their faces. They nod their head in approval. It's like, yeah, that's the way to go. Excuse me. And I even noticed that moment. It wasn't too long. It wasn't too short. It was just enough so you got the gist of it, and you just to give the audience just enough time to have their little giggle, and then they went on and to the other stuff again. It. Oh, also, it is a normal person, normal, yeah. Any movie that's more than 2 hours long, you will want to take a break, go to the bathroom, go get some popcorn or whatever, somewhere during the movie. This movie was so compelling to me that I did not want to leave my seat. And I remember one of the few movies that I did that was the original Raiders of the Lost Ark, because I did not want to miss a second of this movie. And I remember I had to go really bad. I had to go pee really bad when Raiders of the Lost Ark first came out, because we were waiting in line. I didn't have a chance to go to the bathroom, and so, but as soon as you saw that big ball rolling and following, about to crush Indiana Jones, it's like, oh, something's gonna happen every second of this freaking movie. I'm never gonna get up from my seat, and then I'll hold it. Get kidney stones and stuff. So I didn't get kidney stones, but this movie, it's the same thing. It's like actually, you know what I did is the first time I saw it, I really had to go, so I got up and went as fast as I can, and it was just the bathroom wasn't full of people, so I did my thing, and I came back, and I still almost barely missed the very beginning of the Peter Parker scene. So let me see. So I just jump into the Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Underoos. I watched the podcast from Superhero News, the three guys, the good guys at Superhero News. Shout out. I know they're not listening. They have like hundreds of shows under their belt. I got like 38, haha. But the guys at Superhero News, after I saw the movie the first time, I listened to their podcast, and they talked about the Peter Parker scene, and how it made them weep, because of the way that Peter Parker describes why he's doing what he's doing, without being cliched, without being over the top, without being aloof about it, and without sounding unlike a teenager, because he's basically a teenager. So, I don't have to, regurgitate the scene to you, but well, I sort of want to now. What is if you can do something, if you have powers, and you don't do anything about what is it? If you have powers and you don't do something about it, and something goes wrong, it's on you. The paraphrase. I'm gonna go look it up, and I'm gonna make a big poster. I love that quote, because it's basically when I talk to people who do charity work, or just people that I know who are much better people than I am, who go out of their way to help other people or animals or neighborhoods or whatever causes. It's always the same reason. It's like, why do you do it? Because I can. Because if I didn't do it, I would feel like I denied the world my doing this. It's almost like it's you're throwing away good food. you're throwing away a gift. If you're given a gift, and if you're given a gift, you know that you should, in an altruistic sense, if you're given a gift, you should use it to make the world a better place. And Peter Parker, that just his brief moment with Tony Stark, when Tony Stark asks him, why do you do this? And his speech in there, fantastic. This whole movie is so organically natural and paced perfectly, and the way one scene leads to another and why things happened. Very a very small percentage of this movie, maybe I'd say 3% of this movie, there were some awkward moments where it's kind of like plot devices, like it was too convenient. But it's like no. And then the nice thing is, they kind of call themselves out on whenever things happen. Okay, perfect example is Captain America's shield. We've watched Captain America use that freaking shield. It's like, that doesn't look right. You can't do that with a frisbee. And so, of course, Spider-Man calls him out during the big airport fight. Like, you know, your shield is defying the laws of physics. And so, just what else? So many scenes. Actually, you know what? I will probably not. I won't have enough time. You're not going to want to listen to me for more than an hour, so I'm not going to have enough time to talk about specific scenes in there. So I actually recommend. I want to do the Miracle on 34th Street Santa Claus thing, and I recommend go listen to Superhero News. The good guys over there, there's three of them, and they have a spoiler review of Captain America: Civil War, and I think it's about an hour and a half. They talk about specific scenes, and they talk about the all that stuff. And well worth listening to. I got no problem recommending them. What I'm hoping, if you ever wonder, it's like, why am I doing this podcast when everybody else is doing a podcast reviewing whatever, especially Star Wars, Captain America: Civil War, Batman vs Superman. I'm hoping that I can bring a different angle on to the review. Maybe because I see it with my own eyes and bringing my own life experience to reviewing this movie, I'm hoping to talk about some things that maybe others usually don't talk about. So it's actually the stuff that I'm going to talk about. It's probably not what the popular, discussions are going to be about. Like, I probably won't talk about the big airport fight, even though it's fantastic and it's like it's worth talking about, but everybody else has talked about it already. So I'm talking about the little nuances, the little aspects of the movie. And if people are wondering, it's like, especially you, the listener, if you're wondering, it's like, why do I like this movie so much? Like, and I don't know how anybody who could not like this movie, but I totally respect your views. But for the people who actually, like the movie or love the movie or just ecstatic nerdgasm about the movie, I'm trying to understand my own love for the movie, why, and I'm trying to, I guess, disseminate it, reverse engineer it, break it down, post game show wrap up, and I think it's because the Captain America: Civil War brings so many elements of good movie making, not just superhero movie making, but just plain old good movie making. And I think I think it's balanced. If I had to pick one word as to why I love Captain America: Civil War so much, it's balance. They have just the right amount of each element. Not too much, not too little. It's It's the Goldilocks movie. Not too big, not too small, not too hot, not too cold. Just right. If they had Marissa Tomei, like, why that? You figure she's gonna have a much bigger role in the Spider-Man standalone movie, and if they had done that wrong, it would have been too anomalous to the point where it took us out of the focus of the movie, which was trying to figure out how to uh, capture the Winter Soldier, and also try to keep the Avengers from breaking apart as a group, and trying to deal with the Sokovia Accords, very serious issues. And then you throw Marissa Tomei, the hot aunt, and it would almost be too anomalous, but at the same time, it's like, why not? There's some, that happens in life, and they deal with it. They don't try to hide it. They don't try to deny it. Even Tony Stark mentions it. And then I love the fact that, see, I'm getting older, so it cracks me up when I talk about a an attractive person who is older, and when I hear kids say, "Ew, why are you doing that?" It's like that. No, they're old, and I love the way they bring that element into there. And first of all, Marissa Tomei, any age, it doesn't matter. It's like if you're a kid and you don't find her attractive, you're an idiot. But bringing her in it, plus she's a freaking awesome actress. Go watch what was that? The movie with Ryan Gosling and George Clooney, and Marissa Tomei's role in there as what is she, a journalist? Amazing. Well, she's won an Academy Award already for My Cousin Vinny. So it's like, don't even worry about her acting skills. She's got it down. Just bring her on board, and then. But you know what? See, the way they made her hair. Come on, that's not an Aunt May hairdo. She's got the L'Oreal look. So, oh look, I'm all shampooed and conditioned. I'm just out of the shower, and I made these walnut day bread pudding, whatever it was that she did. And I think that scene came along at the very perfect time, because we were getting burdened and burdened and burdened with all these different things coming up, where T'Challa's dad just got blown up, and they still haven't figured out. They still have all the blood on their hands of all the people that died in Sokovia, and also the relief workers in Lagos, right, from the very first action scene. By the way, really quick thing, other people talking about this movie totally reminds me of the Jason Bourne movies, if I haven't mentioned that already. So okay, what else? What other things? I'm pretty I'm hoping Phil Barron and I do a two-person podcast called Podcast to Be Named Later, which is, we can't figure out a name for it. But I'm hoping we're gonna get together sometime, maybe this week or next week. He's got a sore throat this week, so it's like he's kind of under the weather. He's not feeling good. So hopefully, when he's feeling better again, we'll do a two-person podcast on Civil War. So we're gonna talk more about guy talk, more guy talk, not this introspective dweeb sitting behind a computer, me. So, hopefully we'll get that in the near future. But I'm trying to talk about the little aspects of the movie that may be overlooked by people, or again, it's like, why did I like this movie so much? All right, I'm gonna check the time, but the time is 53 minutes. Okay, good. I'm just about getting sick of myself listening to myself. So let me. I'm looking at my quickie bullet points. Oh, huge thing. Okay. One of my bullet points is the Marvel MCU's organically brilliant evolution into making superheroes become more relatable, more like us. Now, if you remember the very first, the typical superhero movie is there's this superhero, especially when it started with like Superman. There's this person that is better than all of us, that can do no wrong, and then they have to tackle problems that are way beyond our capabilities. And he or she is that superhero 24 hours a day, and they can always solve problems. I'm noticing that the Marvel MCU is even with the Avengers, they are evolving their superheroes into becoming more and more and more and more regular human beings. The normal usual thing to do is as a superhero, as time goes on, a superhero gets more powers or figures out a way to be more powerful, right? It's like, I can do more, I can la la la. And what we're getting with the Marvel MCU heroes is they have the same powers, but they're getting more problems that we as normal non-superhero people have to deal with on an everyday basis. And they're doing it without boring us. They're doing it without taking away action scenes. They're doing it without having us miss the superhero-ness of this whole thing. And I still don't quite know how the hell they're doing this, because it's like magic right now. How are they doing this? Because literally, the Daredevil, the Netflix Daredevil, he's just a guy in a suit. If you tried hard enough, if you practiced hard enough, you can kind of do what Matt Murdock does. If you got a little bit of help from the chemical spill, but and it just seems like the evolution of the Marvel universe isn't to give superheroes more powers; it's to make them closer to us, closer to us, closer to us. Relationship without closer to us without dumbing them down. I think that's the important asterisk part of this. The Marvel superheroes are evolving to become human beings, regular daily human beings that during moments of the day they bring out they bring out their superpowers. It's like geeking out. What's the difference between the way I see it, I use the word geek as a verb. I geek out. I don't think I'm a geek because I have so many other things I got to do during a normal typical day that I can't be a geek 100% of the time, 24 hours a day. So when I'm doing this podcast, where I'm watching the Marvel superhero movies, or Batman v Superman, or Star Wars, when I'm experiencing those moments, I'm geeking out, or I'm drawing, or coming up with an idea, coming up with a design for a T-shirt, or whatever. When I'm passionate about something, I'm geeking out. But at the same time, I gotta go do laundry. I'm not gonna geek out when I do laundry. It's just laundry. You do your best, clean the house, do your best, run your errands. You do your best. You're not geeking out. So, I think the way the Marvel superheroes are doing this is they are geeking out, but with superpowers. And the rest of the time, they are writing their stories so that it feels like our world. Somebody also mentioned, you notice Marvel movies, they're based in the real world. Like, they're based in New York and Germany and India, and real places where we can go with real buildings that we recognize. Whereas DC movies are based in fictional locations: Gotham, Central City, Metropolis. So I think it is both a pro and a con for the Marvel MCU and the Marvel movie making teams, so that they don't have to worry about making up locations, but at the same time they have to worry about making it feel authentic, because the Marvel heroes exist on our Earth. So, and I think it's just a natural progression, natural evolution of the Marvel MCU, that their characters reflect us, the issues that we have to deal with, the personal issues we have to deal with, the politics that we have to deal with. And I think they've been doing a brilliant uh, way of doing it. They've been doing it brilliantly. The Winter Soldier is basically sort of like the Patriot Act. Uh, and who knows? Who knows, right? And then, but at the same time, when we think it's like, oh, this is too much like the real world, too much like the real world, you got freaking uh, what is this, Scott Lang twisting up his dial to 11 and becoming Giant Man. Like, holy crap! That's but not too long. Don't focus it on it too long. You got the so, oh, this just a gorgeous, balanced, well-meaning, humble, self-effacing, self-aware, intelligent, uh, distilled, full of brevity, um, with within this with this constant sauce of humanity, always covering up all the vegetables in this salad, in this, you know, um, the you never lose the aspect of humanity in every moment of Captain America: Civil War, um, and I think that's there's so many good quotes from this movie, so many that I'm just gonna leave that for another show, or I'm just gonna post it on the website, thedailynight.net, the Daily Night with a K.net. I'm kind of did a stream of consciousness podcast today. I don't have a lot of notes written down. I wanted to go directly from the theater back home. Check the cat, make sure she's got her, make sure her water's still clean, and her food is okay, and then go straight into recording this podcast because I wanted to bring how I feel about this movie onto this show, and the movie doesn't make me go, oh my god, this is so awesome, I want to go turn over cars. No, the movie doesn't make me want to laugh out loud until I'm puking. No, the movie doesn't want to make me read books. It doesn't do that. What it does at the end of the day, after everything is said and done, number one, it makes me feel confident about the movie making business. Like, they still got it. They know how to bring it. They have capable people doing it, and they can do it with the genre that I absolutely love, and still have it be digested by the mainstream general audience. Like, no matter who you are, you should be able to enjoy this movie, even if you're a little kid. And at the same time, it makes me have good guys to root for, and bad guys to understand why they're being so bad. And it's not an awareness, but it is a good understanding of why things are in the world, and most importantly, it makes me feel good about being a human being. Having seen Captain America: Civil War, I leave the theater feeling good. Like, this was worthwhile. This was it makes me want to keep going. And I think that's the main purpose of entertainment, is if they can distract us from all the crap that we have to go through on a daily basis and plop our butts down in the theater for 2.5 hours, and then we leave the theater feeling good about ourselves, or learning something new, or both, or feeling refreshed, or feeling like we got on a little mini vacation just for a couple hours, and then go back into the real world, and then still bring some of that movie with us. Some of the wonderful quotes. I'm going back to Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire. So many quotes, great quotes from that movie. Captain America, the First Avenger. So many great quotes in that movie. Noble, noble stuff, as well as funny stuff. Stuff you can tell your friends while you're eating pizza. And I think that's. How do you not want to watch more Marvel MCU movies when they keep doing this? How do you not want to give them all your money? And it's like, and at the very end of this movie, the very end, hopefully, if you've seen this movie, you did not leave when the credits started rolling, because there were two end credit scenes. The first one was in Wakanda, and I talked about that already. And the very, very last one was Spider-Man getting his little cool gadget wrist thing. I think it's not that complicated to understand, but it's just a cool gadget wrist thing. And in the very, very final words of the movie, it says Spider-Man will return. Holy crap. That's hope. That's you just watched a 2.5 hour brilliant movie, and then they tell you there's more, folks. You think you like what you saw. We're going to have more for you, and we know. Yeah, and I know that I can trust them to keep giving me good movies and better movies and substantial movies. Movies that I won't be embarrassed to talk to other people about, because there are more to these movies than just being superheroes or explosions or shooting guns. The human aspect of it. So and funny as hell. So on that note, thank you for listening to my blah blah, my stream of consciousness. I'm gonna take a drink of water. I am just very happy to know that this movie exists, and it's easily one of my top 3 movies of all time. Probably up there with The Dark Knight. I think this is. I think I consider this better than the Avengers, actually. The Dark Knight and my personal favorite, Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire. So I probably see it a couple of more times. Go watch the cheap matinee during the weekday shows, so I can afford to see it more than once or twice. So hopefully you've seen the movie. If you haven't yet, figure out a way to do it without putting too much stress on your life. Go see it with an audience, without an audience, or with a small handful of people in the theater. It's just as good either way. Try to see it in 3D if you can, and hopefully you will. That's my hope. You may not agree with me, or you may have a different experience, but my hope is that you enjoy this movie as much as I did, as much as a lot of my friends did, and if it makes you feel good as a human being after having seen this movie, and feel hopeful to see the future movies. So that's all a movie can do. Until next time, this is Gerardo San Diego. You can find me on thedailynight.net, thedailynight with a K.net. Until next time, may the force be with you. Thank you very much. 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 Much.